Hi guys, I'm back. I wanted to do some videos today just kind of on the basics of astrology and kind of what I feel about every single placement and just kind of going through for those of you that don't know what astrology is. For those of you that do know what astrology is, this might be like, second grade stuff to you, but it's something that, are the basics and it's very important to know the basics of something so that you can kind of build up later. Um, so yeah, it's my video, Basics of Astrology, I guess, Astrology 101. So, we're gonna start with kind of just a little discussion, and by discussion, I mean I'm pretty much just gonna talk to myself, which is, how this whole YouTube thing happens. You just talk to yourself to a screen, I guess. Um, so, for astrology, it's a science. It's a pseudoscience, a science that's been around for hundreds, if not thousands of years. I don't know the exact dates or everything because dates or time is not really you know, my forte and everything like that, like history. But anywho, astrology has been around for such a long time, and it has been used as a system to find find answers to things, find the reasoning for things in what we're going through, and it. I don't want to say that it's gotten to the point that it can become a religion, but it is reaching that point where it can kind of. I'm sure there are people that treat it as a religion, but for me, I personally just use it as a tool. I use astrology as a tool to kind of see what's coming up and to dig deeper into myself as well as everyone else in turn with that. Just because I find that astrology is it's a really useful tool if you know how to understand it and look at it. So hopefully after this video you guys can kind of understand and get a different perspective on astrology and what you feel you can take away from it or whatnot. So what I want to start with is kind of just letting you guys know that you're not like people that are born on like March 3rd. You're like, oh, I'm a Pisces. I'm a Pisces. So then you go online and you're like, no, let me look up Pisces stuff. And the stuff says, that you're really delusional and blah, 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 or whatever it may be. Or whatever, that's just a random, thing that people have said about Pisces before. And you read that and you're like, that's not me. Like, that's not me. I'm not like that. And there's stuff that you will not resonate with because it's not you. You'll be like, that's not me. I'm not. I read these horoscopes or these astrology things and they don't seem right at all. And they all seem so basic they could be applied to anybody. And that is true. That's because people are not looking for the deeper truths and things with astrology, and they're just like, okay, you're a Pisces sun, so the sun is going to be in this area in your life right now. So, in this month, like it's all solar astrology and that in horoscopes and stuff, and I don't necessarily I understand its meaning, I understand its purpose, but I don't personally agree with it, and I feel like it's putting up such a different perspective of astrology that people don't want to go deeper into their own psyche, into their self, into their soul, whatever you want to use, as that. But they don't. They see it as this surface level thing, and that's why people question it because I feel that they can intuitively feel there's a deeper meaning to it, and there's like this doesn't make sense. So some people will go and continue researching it, and many of you that are on this channel right now watching this video do that. You research that. You research astrology for that reason because you know there's something more to it. And I've personally found through my 4 or 5 years, 6, I think, I don't really know when I started. It was a long time ago, studying astrology. I'm still finding more and more stuff that I could be learning. There's so much about astrology that is infinite, and like every single time I learn something new comes up, and I'm like, wow, that's crazy. Like there's things that I haven't even brushed on yet in my own astrological journey because I haven't reached that point yet. And I don't feel like I need to right now, but I feel like there are some studies that I would like to do in the future with astrology and kind of why things are the way they are and whatnot. But yeah, so that's kind of my little mini rant about astrology and just using it as a tool because I feel like it's really important to use astrology as a tool for your own growth as well as the growth of everyone else and not just kind of throw it aside because it does have value. It has an infinite amount of value and the collective does value it, so therefore you can tap into that value, if that makes sense. So now I'm going to kind of go into explaining the signs and kind of just the basic way to kind of show you guys how it's all laid out. So, as many of you know, there are 12 signs in the zodiac. It's Aries through Pisces. There's 12 signs, and wherever your sun is placed is what sign you are. So if you're born December 4th, you'd be a Sagittarius. And that's where your sun would be. With that, if you were born, whatever birthday you have is what most people associate with their sign. They're like, oh, I'm a Aries, I'm a Gemini, I'm a Leo, whatever it may be. Like, you go and you associate with those signs because that's what you see. That's what your sun is. That's what you emanate. But a lot of people don't realize that actually way before this, when astrology was first made, they would use their moon sign as a kind of the basis of a lot of things. And the moon sign is a lot more so what you're connected to than your sun sometimes. I know for me personally, I connect to my moon a lot more than my sun, just because that's who I am. That's what I love my moon. I love my moon placement. It's amazing. It's like one of my favorite ones. Anywho, yeah, and there's a bunch of planets besides the sun, and a lot of people don't realize that there's there's the sun, the moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Saturn, Jupiter, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto. Like, there's a lot of planets, and each of those planets are going to be placed in a different part of the sky, and it's going to be placed in a different area. And you could have, like, for instance, you could have this extremely independent Aries sun, for example. You could be an extremely driven just individual with an Aries sun, but you could have a Libra moon, and Libra is opposite of that. So Libra is about the relationships, is about that relating to people, the connecting to people, and having a Libra moon shows a more emotional need to connect to people. So you might not have that full amount of the Aries sun that's like, go, 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 let's get this, let's be a warrior, let's be independent, but you're going to want to also have the emotional connection with a partner that a lot of Aries suns aren't really known to, at least in the solar, basic astrology that people see on, horoscopes. They're like, oh, you're an Aries, you're super independent, blah, blah, blah. But if, like my example, if you have your moon in Libra, it's like a totally different thing. And that goes for a bunch of other placements as well, like Mercury, Mars, Venus, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, every single planet has a different meaning. So I'm going to go through those now. Just kind of help you guys. I'm going to go through kind of each meaning of each one and what they kind of represent. So the sun is represented by Leo. So it's very much about your expression, just your expression, how you express yourself as a outwardly as a soul, I guess you could say. The sun is related to the soul in a lot of astrology. And it has to do with just expressing yourself in that solar way that everybody can see, in the brightness way, which is why a lot of Leo suns, which is what the sun rules, like to be on the stage because they like to shine their light and be seen, and that's what the sun is kind of at its highest potential, is that very bright, spreading your love sort of thing. And the sun I kind of look at as what sort of archetype, what sort of way you want to shine your light, way you want to, what area of life for you want to come in with a light around that area, if that makes sense. So for instance, if you were to have a Scorpio sun like myself, you would have your sun in this area, or you would choose for your soul to come into this area of understanding the darker things in life, the taboos, the death, astrology, even example, occult stuff, things like that. Your light would shine in that area. Your sun would illuminate those things, so you would see those things. And that's same for every single sign. So depending on each sign, it kind of depends what you're seeing and what you shine in. And for me, I personally have it in the 11th house, which is similar to an Aquarius sun. So if an Aquarius sun is watching this, they can kind of understand. Aquarius suns and sun in the 11th also has to shine, like they shine their light in a very group setting, if that makes sense. So you shine your light in a group way because that's what the sun, that's where the sun is. That's what the 11th house in Aquarius means, and that's where the sun is at, or the sign it's in. So it shows a kind of a light around that area where you can really shine yourself and really be yourself and show yourself to the world, I guess. So now I'm gonna do the moon sign. So the moon is I actually give more weight to the moon sign than the actual sun sign. The sun sign I understand a lot of the time, but there's so much more to a person's astrology than their sun sign. Um, Excuse me. And a lot of what I find is that there's so much more of like personal development and stuff connected to the moon sign, just because of what I've seen. And I've been more in tune with people's moon signs for a long time than their actual sun signs, and I can pick up on that quicker than I can pick up on their sun signs, which is kind of weird. Like I can kind of pick up on both, but regardless, the moon sign shows your kind of emotional nature. Your mother, it shows your connection to your mother, kind of how you were nurtured, how you were raised, how you show caring, how you show emotion. The moon rules your emotions. It rules your emotional nature, your emotional response. So whereas the sun is kind of like how you shine and where you're seen, the moon is more so that introspective way about it, the emotional part, the more personal part to people, where it's like, how am I reacting to this situation based off of my moon sign, and the emotional nature of the individual will be shown by the moon sign. So yeah, the moon sign is pretty much the best way to explain it is emotions, best way. So now we have Mercury. So Mercury is the communicative qualities of the person. Mercury is kind of how you communicate, the way you communicate, the style you communicate in. So, for instance, you could have a Capricorn sun, which is very, very stable, very strong, and have a Mercury in, Sagittarius, for example. That is so, it's so like drastically different from the Capricorn, because the Capricorn is all about stability, whereas the Sagittarius is all about like growing and having a Mercury in Sagittarius myself, I can kind of relate to the rapid speaking. Like when I think of a Mercury in Sagittarius, I think of an individual that is, an auctioneer, like those people that talk extremely fast. And having a Capricorn sun, but a Mercury in Sag shows that kind of like you want to be stable, you want to be strong, but you have that mind that just keeps going and going and growing and getting bigger. So the Mercury is just kind of like how you communicate, how your thoughts work. Your moon is also tied into your thoughts and your emotional processing, but the Mercury is more of the mental processing. So yeah. Venus. I love Venus. Venus is one of my favorite planets because I just love it. I love my own Venus, so I guess that's why. Because, yay. So Venus is related to Taurus and Libra. So with that, Taurus and Libra both kind of have the theme of values and the theme of kind of what you value and the value you put on something and the value you have. So Venus just kind of shows the value that you have for yourself as well as how you value others. Venus is also a lucky planet, so you will find a little bit of luck in the area that Venus is in, as well as, the sign it's in and the house it's in and aspects and whatnot. So Venus is a beneficial sign. It shows, your love nature, the way you are in relationships. A lot of the time people look at Venus signs is kind of more so how you show affection to others and caring and nurturing. Venus is kind of like the wooing, like the, seduction aspect, like smooth talking is what I think of when I think of Venus. Like the smooth talker, the very able to like just be very like presentable, very beautiful. Like Venus is that area. So now we have Mars. So Mars is kind of how you act, how you go after your goals, how you go for things. Where your drives are. If you had your Mars in the sign of Aquarius, for example, your drive would be a lot towards humanitarian pursuits, like people, like helping people and helping society and having that, you know, just connecting to people in a community is very much Aquarius. So having that Mars and that makes you have that passion for that. So a lot of people with Mars and Aquarius can be like activists or, like public speakers or stuff like that. People that just want to make groups feel better and have that energy to really help groups um, with that. So yeah, Mars, I guess, would just be passion and drive. And Jupiter kind of shows this. It's luck. It's kind of where you get more luck in that area of life. You get more benefit, I guess you could say, more growth. It's easier for you in that area. Um, so, for instance, if you were to have like a Jupiter in, let's say, the sign of Gemini, for example, or Jupiter in the third house, um, you would have a lot of luck in your community with your siblings. A lot of stuff with the third house or Gemini has to do with communication. So you would have a lot of luck with communicating details and being very detail oriented, but more so in just communicating and getting things out there. You could write a lot of short stories. You could write a lot of write a lot, and you can have a lot of writing energy, and that would help a lot with whatever it is that you were supposed to do here. Um, but yeah, Jupiter in Gemini would be very much about just communicating well, and you'll just find that you can communicate well, and it just happens, and you're like, all right, cool, like awesome, like you're able to communicate well, and you write a paper, and it's just A plus, A plus, A plus, and it's always been, you're just it comes easy to you with a Jupiter and Gemini. So I guess Jupiter, I guess, is the best way to put it is luck or expansion. Saturn is very much a planet of trial and error and lessons and just what you're supposed to learn. And Saturn is like the responsible one. Saturn is the planet of rules, regulations, responsibilities, whatever it is that like authority is very Saturnian. Saturn is very much a planet of just kind of rules, regulations, what needs to be, learned for you in this life. And a lot of Saturn is an area that you need to learn to incorporate with that sign and the house that it's in as well. You need to learn to incorporate those that sign and those placements for your own growth. Those are the lessons, like the hardest lessons for you, is the Saturn. Whereas Jupiter is more of the easier lessons for you that you've kind of just, okay, this is easy, and you can benefit with that. And you can kind of rely on that, if that makes sense. Reliance isn't a good thing, but rely on that. Whereas Saturn's like, I have to get this work done. I have to do this because it doesn't, whatever this area of life for me is, it doesn't make sense. So that's kind of Saturn for you, just kind of the rules, regulations, lessons. Uranus. So Uranus is, it's a very unique planet. It's a very interesting planet to try and explain to people because Uranus is the planet that refuses to be explained, if that makes sense. It's so unconventional, so different, so strange, so off the wall, different from the other ways of thinking. It's associated with the sign of Aquarius, so it has to do with the new age, the age of Aquarius, the new way of thinking. Uranus just has to do with awakening. It kind of it's associated with lightning for the reason of things can happen that quick, that fast. You can just drop dead. You can just win $1 million. You can whatever it is. You can get struck by lightning, like a random insight can come, and you'll be like, oh my gosh, boom, 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 and you'll have this huge spiritual awakening, or you'll have this idea, or you'll have whatever it is that comes to you. That's kind of what Uranus represents, is kind of those insights. Genius is very much represented by Uranus, like genius qualities. A lot of people have heavy Aquarius or Uranus placements can be so like they can, like, Uranus can go so high up, but also so low down if the energy isn't contained, not necessarily contained, but stabled. And Uranus has to kind of be that. It can be either. It could be this erratic, psychotic person, or it could be this genius who comes up with these amazing innovations that no one's ever thought of before. Like, that can happen. Uranus can do that. And Uranus represents that whole sphere. So, Neptune. Neptune is very much the delusional, the metaphysical, but more so in the what you can't see. Neptune is this, what you can't see, but you can see. It's very strange. It's very hard to kind of wrap someone's head around Neptune. Um, Drugs are related to Neptune. Um, Altered state of consciousnesses are related to Neptune. So I guess if that kind of helps. Um, like dreams are related to Neptune. Um, Anything where your consciousness isn't fully there, but it is there, which is why, like Neptune shows an area in someone's chart where you could have delusions. You could think that you could have these delusions of whatever, that you have this amazing relationship and that's just the best thing in the world for you, but in reality it's not. It's really not. You're stuck in this delusion and you're blinded by something. You're blinded by your own emotions, and that's kind of what Neptune represents. Is that veil that you kind of put on, that you look through, that you're like, oh, this is what I see, but that might not be the truth, and you have to the area of Neptune is where you kind of have to dig deeper and look past that veil and really question those things and question um, what it is in that area for you. And you can and you can use, or I have seen people with Neptune use drugs, alcohol, for that kind of escape, to relate to that other area that they know so deeply. People with like just Neptune placements, I've seen that. So yeah, Neptune is kind of like the delusional, dreamy quality, the artistic quality. It's this connectedness to everything, like everything, like the spiritual stuff is just Neptune, like the just connecting to like art, music, like creating something that people can take um, creating something that people can look at and get their own interpretation of. People can interpret Neptune super super differently, and they kind of Neptune just makes things kind of like a smoke screen or a mirror, if that makes sense, or kind of both. Kind of like this crazy area, but it's super cool if you can navigate it. It's so much fun. Pluto, oh Pluto, how I love you. And I'm not talking about the dog from Disney. That was from Disney, right? Pluto from Disney? Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Um, Pluto is this humongous. It's not. It's ironic because it's not a humongous planet. It's actually the smallest planet. It's actually also the furthest away. But it is so strong, so strong. Pluto is a planet that has to do with nuclear stuff, with bombs, with taboo stuff, death, sex, um, magic, like voodoo, stuff like that. The very like deep, deep, deep stuff, like sewer stuff, like the stuff that's like really deep down there, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, whatever it is. The stuff that's really deep down there that isn't dealt with is Pluto. Pluto shows that area where that has to be kind of reconfigured, and it gets destroyed, essentially broken down to its core so that it can be kind of brought back up again stronger, because it's broken and it's destroyed, essentially dead. It's on the verge of death. And Pluto does represent death. It represents the transformative process of from one type of energy into another type of energy. And Pluto is extremely powerful, and a lot of people with a heavy Pluto placements can become psychologists, can become great healers because they're able to see that depth of people and the deeper qualities. And Pluto is such a beautiful, beautiful and extremely powerful planet if that power is used for the correct purposes. Um, and it just kind of shows where the power is and how that power is being used. So yeah, I guess Pluto in its sense is just kind of power and just death. Yeah, power and death. Pluto. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. This was my video on just the astrology, the basics of astrology. I'm gonna try and edit it to make it not as super long. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you guys have any questions, comment below. I'm gonna be doing videos every, I want to say Wednesday, I think, is what I'm going to be doing. Videos on Wednesday about astrology and just kind of making stuff for you guys. So yeah, comment down there with whatever you think I should do or whatever questions. And obviously, you know, like, subscribe, all that stuff. I love you guys. Have a great day. Yeah, bye.